And for more on this, we're now being joined live by our VOA correspondent, Steve Herman from Georgia. Steve, thank you so much for joining us. Of course, I want to first start by asking you, what is the mood like on ground in Georgia right now, which happened to be a big win for Trump?
Well, that depends whether you're someone who voted for Donald Trump or for somebody who voted for Kamala Harris. There is a bit of a disbelief among Democrats in this state. They worked very hard on the ground, did lots of door knocking, and were fairly confident up until Election Day. For the Donald Trump supporters, the Republicans, of course, they are relieved and joyful and very happy that after setbacks in recent years for Republicans in statewide elections, that Donald Trump was able to capture this key swing state with 16 electoral votes.
Absolutely, Steve. I just want to understand going into this. Of course, we know Georgia, it has 16 electoral votes. Trump won by a significant margin. His vote share was at 50.7%. I just want to understand, when it comes to Georgia and many of the swing states, in fact, where do you think the Democrat camp went wrong?
Well, that'll be a subject for quite a long time. But looking at the exit polling, it's very obvious that young white men who had voted for Joe Biden 4 years ago went with Donald Trump this time around. And also, there are certain other demographics, such as African Americans and older women, who underperformed for the Democrats. And the Democratic Party in states like Pennsylvania, for example, more than Georgia, had really pinned their last-minute hopes on rallying the Puerto Rican Spanish-speaking community to their cause because of the insults that were made about Puerto Rico by a comedian at Donald Trump's Madison Square Garden rally. But they just did not have enough of a turnout to overcome this really surprising support for Donald Trump on Election Day.
All right, Steve, do stay on with us. We're also now being joined by Reza Khanzadeh from Washington, D.C., a U.S. political analyst and West Asia analyst. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Of course, the results are in front of us. It's a win for Donald Trump. Now, you are a West Asia analyst as well. West Asia has been going through a very volatile period. Trump has said that once he is president, which he is now, he will end all wars. What's your assessment of that? What does a Trump presidency look like in the years ahead?
Yeah, thanks for having me. In regards to the wars that he's referring to, which is the Ukraine war between Ukraine and Russia, and also the genocide in Gaza between Israel and the Palestinians, when it comes to the war in Ukraine first, I do believe he has a stronger hand in trying to negotiate a peace deal in that. But of course, his roadblocks will be NATO and also many of the politicians within his own party, but then also just in Washington, D.C., because most strategists believe that the deal that he might cut with Putin would be to carve out a piece of Ukraine for Russia. Now, if that were to happen, I believe that would be very detrimental on many different levels, which goes beyond the time we have on this show. But then now focusing back on the other war, or that genocide in Gaza, what we've seen from Trump in his first 4 years as president, when he was the 45th president of the United States, he had a very close relationship with the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. And there was a long list of things he did for the Prime Minister that essentially gave Israel unlimited access and unlimited abilities to do essentially whatever they wanted, particularly in the West Bank. And now that he's a president again, and we know he can't run for a second term because this is his final term in office, he might actually give Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu even more freedom to do whatever they want, which seems catastrophic considering what President Joe Biden has essentially allowed Israel to do up to this point, which is a mass atrocity and, genocide. So it seems like, from what we know historically from Trump, things are not going to be any better at all for the Palestinians. It's going to look like it's going to get worse. Now, of course, he says he wants to end wars and he wants to, win the Nobel Peace Prize and he wants to be the hero for all the people in the Middle East. We'll have to wait and see what happens there because, with Trump, you just don't know what you're going to get with him from one day to the next because even for like the example with Iran, in his first 4 years in office, he had multiple opportunities to actually attack Iran and bomb specific parts of Iran, whether it's the military, bases or like, different nuclear sites, but he didn't. So it's quite a gamble to kind of, forecast what a future would look like under a Trump presidency.
Right, Mr. Reza. Steve, coming back to you now, this is something that a lot of other analysts that we were speaking to yesterday as well have echoed, and I'm just going to take that point that Mr. Reza has made forward, and I want to see clarity from you here. We did hear many analysts say that under a Trump presidency, support for Israel may only be bolstered further. What's your assessment of this, Steve?
Well, as pointed out, Donald Trump has had pretty deep ties to Israel for a number of years. The Adelsons were his, I believe, biggest single contributor, a powerful Jewish family out of Las Vegas whose single issue has seemed to be support for Israel and moving the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem. And of course, there were the Abraham Accords that were instituted in the first Trump administration. And I think, as was also pointed out by Reza, that Donald Trump really wants to win a Nobel Peace Prize. He's made this very clear. He thought it was unfair that Barack Obama, his predecessor in his first presidency, got one for, as Trump put it, for really doing nothing. And I think he is going to try to strike some sort of overarching deal that they were still working on at the end of the first Trump administration. But I think that as we have seen in the public statements, that the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is very happy about Donald Trump coming back to the White House.
All right, Mr. Reza, coming back to you now, I'm going to take the same question as I did with Steve. I just want to get your opinion on what you think went wrong with the Democratic camp, as we've heard both their policies on global affairs, on the wars. What's your assessment of that?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, which unfortunately we don't have enough time. But I think the short answer goes back to, I think, President Obama's one of his advisors, I think his name is David Axelrod, he said it's the economy, stupid. And that's essentially what it came down to. We see a shift in numbers when it comes to white voters, black voters, even though Harris won, the black vote, Trump still gained points on those votes. So the white vote, the black vote, even the Hispanic vote, and then of course the Arab Muslim vote. They were all upticks towards Trump, and for almost most of them, it was more than 50% towards Trump. And speaking to as many people as possible when it comes to this election, almost all of them, it came down to the economy. It came down to their own bank accounts, what's in their pocketbook, how they're able to put food on the table, and how they're able to put gas in their car. And essentially, that's what it came down to. Now, Harris's approach was attacking Trump, talking about, abortion, and talking about moving forward and also uniting, but very, very little on substance when it came to the economy. Now, one thing that was in Trump's favor was that we had 4 years of him, so we had something to look back and compare to. With Harris, we had nothing. And if you recall, she ran for president in 2020 against Joe Biden to see who would be on the ticket as the Democratic nominee, and I think she barely even made it past the first, like the first round of debates. So she was untested, not well experienced, and the people around her were more of the same types of people that were there for Clinton when she lost to Trump, and then were there for Biden. But the difference was between Biden and Harris is that Biden's approach was, look what Trump has done to us. But Harris's approach was, look what Trump did. She wasn't really looking forward to what can she do to make things any better or any different. She was kind of stuck in this limbo of talking about what Trump used to be like, and then kind of focusing on 2 or 3 issues that like if you look at the women vote, a lot of them, a vast majority, I think I have the numbers here, it's like, 50, almost 50% voted for Trump. Now, if their core issue was abortion and, pro-choice, why did they still vote for Trump? I think that goes back again towards just like the basic needs of like ordinary average person, which is money, having enough money in their bank account to feed their children, to pay their mortgage, pay their rent. So I think that's what she missed, during this campaign.
Mr. Khanzadeh, you raised some very important points there. And Steve, thank you so much for joining us. Same to you, Mr. Khanzadeh. Thank you so much for joining us on WION World is One. It's been a pleasure listening to your insights on this.
Thanks for having me.
For latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.